Thanks everyone for joining today. We go through the NetSuite instance here. So the screen that you're looking at is an environment in which I'm logged in. Up here on the top right, you can see I'm logged in as Cameron Murdoch, who is a CFO. And because NetSuite is a role-based system, when you log in, you can have one or many roles assigned to you and permissions assigned to those specific roles. So if you can see certain subsidiaries or certain customers, those roles would provide that security for you. Whenever you log into NetSuite, you're presented with a dashboard that's specific to your role. And so NetSuite has an implementation methodology and really a software methodology that's called Suite Success, in which case it is a pre-configured environment for your industry. So if you're in manufacturing, they have a Suite Success that's configured for manufacturing. If you're a distribution, for that, and what they've done is they've said, you know, we've implemented thousands of manufacturers, thousands of wholesale distributors, or not-for-profits, or you know, agency. And so what they've done is they said, we've looked at what customers do after that first year. What are the things that they're looking at? What are the things that they're evaluating? How are they using the system? And they've put a lot of those features in there. So a lot of the things, these KPIs and other features, and even the roles, are configured already for you. So there's not a lot of, we're not starting at base zero and then I got to, you know, configure everything. So so it's a lot easier to get to that value point when you start using NetSuite. So again, we're looking at a CFO role. As far as the menu options, basically anything up here and above is the same no matter what screen you go to. So as I navigate around, these will always be here. I can always come back to my home dashboard, which is what we're seeing here. And then NetSuite has a search bar, and this is the Google of NetSuite. It will go anywhere in the system that the role that I am in will allow. So I can look for customers, I can look for vendors, I can look for customer purchase orders. So I know that there's a customer out there and they have their PO 90. It'll go out and find that sales order. As I start to type that, it will go out and look for anything that meets that criteria. So there's a sales order out there, there's an item receipt, there's an invoice. So there's a variety of things that's happening here. And I think this goes back to that, you know, single version of the truth. There's no, you know, database for CRM. There's no database for accounting. It's all in that same. And so this feature kind of explains or shows you that capability to really kind of navigate around within NetSuite. Within the dashboard, there are a variety of what we call portlets. So this is the reminders portlet, this is the Kpi Portlet, and let me just talk about a couple of them. The reminders portlet is really, for me as the CFO, when I log into NetSuite, what are the things that I need to do today? It's almost like your to-do list. And so you can see I have a couple bills to approve. I have some authorizations, some bills, and some periods to close. I'm really behind on closing my periods. But again, you know, it's kind of, hey, what do I need to focus on? And so these can be set up. You know, right now I've got quite a few of them here. It only displays when there are numbers that justify that, and then I can add to it. So I can have standard ones or custom ones that I create. So again, even though there's a lot of functionality in there for your specific industry, you can continue to customize it and then really focus on it, because there might be, let's say, a purchasing agent. There might be two purchasing agents, and so I need to focus on the East, and maybe Steve's the other one, and he's focusing on the West Coast. And so we have different reminders that we can set up, and so there's a lot of customization that can be done for you. But like if I look at this bills to approve, if I click on this, it'll take me to the list, and I can say, okay, yep, I see that. I expected that, I'm good with that one, and that one, okay, and I click submit, and it will approve those, and then they will show up in accounts payable. Until this point, these are bills that are transactions in NetSuite, but they don't have a GL impact. Once it becomes an approved transaction, and with NetSuite, it does have a GL impact. I'm going to go back to the dashboard. So, so now we're back at the dashboard. A couple other things here. One of the things that I really think is important, and is when you're navigating and when you're using NetSuite, in your current system, there's a lot of transactional activity. How do I kind of keep the wheel going? Well, within NetSuite, there's a lot of automation that does it, and it allows you to focus on running your business. And so the KPIs are a very important tool, and they become really important when there's no batching, like Steve said. I don't have to go out and make sure, are these numbers accurate, because I didn't batch the invoices. So if I look at expenses, if I want to look at this quarter versus last fiscal quarter, I can compare those two numbers here. And you'll notice as I hover over these, I can drill down into them. So anytime you kind of get that option, I can look at that information. And and so I can again configure as many KPIs as is important, and it allows me to kind of a jump off point, like, wait a minute, I didn't expect to see that many expenses this month. What is that number? And I can jump down into it. And you have up to four focus areas that you can have displays up here. So you can look at that information. Again, I can jump down into what that is. What's really powerful about this dashboard is I have the ability, so there's six KPIs set up, and you can see some of these are quarters. Well, what if I want to look at month over month? So if I want to come up here, I can select to look at things this month versus, let's go back to, actually, let me go back to just a regular, this month versus last month. I click done. Now what NetSuite does is it runs through all of those KPIs and metrics here and starts comparing the numbers for me. So I just took 6 reports and I made 12 out of them. So I can look at things in a variety of ways. And again, it gives you insight into your business and determine, okay, what action do I need to take? Is everything functioning properly? So again, those are your KPIs. If you're a company that has multiple subsidiaries, NetSuite puts a Subsidiary Navigator on here, and so you'll see here I've got expenses, KPIs. I can come in here and say, well, just show me for the child. And so now all of my dashboards and all my portlets here are now only presenting the child subsidiary 1. Now there's no data in child subsidiary 2, but when I click on that, you'll see everything should drop to 0. Oops. So again, it allows me to kind of navigate around and really not have to jump into a bunch of report menus to look at it. I can look at the information right from here. So again, those are 2 different or 3 different types of portlets. There are other portlets that you can have. We can have list views, so some bank balance information. Here, let me put this back to the parent. And then I can have cash projections. I can have bank reconciliation. So there's a lot of information. And if I wanted to move any of this up, let's say I wanted the KPIs at top, all I have to do is just simply drag it and move it up. And so you can customize that for your use. So again, a very powerful way to kind of look at some of the KPIs. Here's a little Kpi Meter that allows you to look at that information in a little bit different way. And then same thing here, I can kind of navigate around and view that information. NetSuite's kind of taken that dashboard and said, you know what, not only for just your dashboard, but let's do it for customers. So if I go click up here and click on the customers, now I am looking at the customer dashboard, and it's for all customers in NetSuite. So I can see specific information to them and what's applicable. And so again, I can customize this. So I can come up here and say, well, I actually want some recent records or maybe a specific search in here that would be more applicable for me. And so again, I can configure that if I'd like, and again, have multiple portlets within this customer dashboard. So they've got that for customers. So I do the same thing for, let's drill down a little bit further. So if I go CUS Smith, so what I've done is rather than telling it to go out and look for everything that has Smith in it, I'm limited to just look for customers. And I'm going to look at this dashboard for Smith Supplies, who's one of our customers. And I'm going to click on the dash. And so we were looking at the dashboard, which was the CFO's view into the organization. Now we were looking at the customer dashboard. I'm sorry, customers as a whole. And then now I'm looking at a customer dashboard for Smith Supplies. And so again, I get this KPI feature, and you can see how much information is quickly at hand for me that I can look at this customer if I was going to call them for some opportunities, or if I was, looking at how healthy they are as far as sales and accounts receivable. I can do all that information from here. And then it is also a launching point for a variety of other reports and activities. So if I wanted to create a quote, I can jump right from here and do that. And so it's a very powerful tool for that. I have the same thing available for me on the vendors. So here is the vendors dashboard. So it's all vendors that are out there. And so I can see all that information. And I can do the same thing for the vendor record. I can look at the information specific to a particular vendor. So the features of dashboards, they've done a really good job, and it allows, I think, roles to be really specific on what they want to look at and focus on the health of the portion of the business that they're managing. Let's take a look at some of the other reports that are out there. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard. And because NetSuite's a browser-based system, and a lot of people have multiple windows, I don't have to just stay within this one dashboard. Okay, I can open up multiple windows. So I'm going to open up an income statement, and I'm just going to say I hit Control and then click, and you can see it open up another tab up here. And so I can put those on two different windows if I want, if I'm researching something. So it's a nice feature, and you can have as many windows as you want open. But if I look at this income statement, so now we're looking at it, the income statement from October of 2020 to December of 2020, and it's comparing it at the subsidiary level. So the parent, I can do the child, child one, child two, and then we do have an elimination subsidiary. So if you need to run that consolidated, you can do that, and that's what this is doing for you. But if I look at this, I look at the numbers and I'm like, okay, that's good for that, but I want to see that by month. So this is, again, an option here where I can come over to the column and I say, well, you know what, let's run this actually by accounting period. And I click refresh. So now it still takes the periods, but then breaks them out, and I can see how things looked. If I wanted to say, you know what, actually I want to look at that for last fiscal year, it can do that for me also. So there's a variety of instead of having to specify the actual period, I can use available selectors. Excuse me. But again, I can look at this, and it's not just a, hey, how do I want to use this? I can drill down into it. And so if I go in and say, well, I want to look at what that 472,000 was. So if I do that, I can click on it, and it takes me into the detail. And because it's a real-time system, there's no batching. All of that information is at hand, and I can drill down into it. And so now I'm looking at all of the invoices in October of last year that posted and are making up this $472,000. And I see one, here's an invoice, invoice number 45, and for $4,654. And let's say that I wanted to look at that information, I can do that. So I can just simply click on it, and it'll take me to that actual invoice. And so now we're looking at the invoice record. So when this was created on 10/26 last year, this is the invoice, and down here are the items that were sold on that invoice. So again, a great way to kind of start at the top and kind of work my way down to see more information about that. Some of the other, because we're all sitting in one database, I have the ability to start jumping from the invoice. I can look at the original sales order. And so this one, this invoice 45 is created from invoice number 41. And so if I want, I can actually drill down into that. So I'm going to open up another window up here. And here is sales order 41. And one of the things that you'll notice here is you'll say, Mike, you know what? The sales order form looks a lot like the invoice form. You can control what these forms look like. And if you looked at that and said, gosh, that's a lot of busyness on the screen, we can cut those down. Or we can say, you know what? I actually want this document date up here, and I want the subsidiary information here, and I don't need the rest of this sales information. So those forms can be customized to your individual needs. You can have more than one form for a particular transaction. But again, we're looking at this particular sales order and that when it was created, and then again the items, and as it went through this sales process. So it was fulfilled, it was invoiced. If it was an open sales order, how many were back ordered, or still back ordered, and so on. And so you get a variety of information that you can customize and display here. Okay. So again, if this is in this situation, you can see this particular sales order has already been billed. If the customer wanted to return, I can come right back in here and click authorize return, and it'll take me to that return screen, and I can process that return. And if there's approvals for that, it can go through that approval routing. Okay. So again, if I look at the invoice, we jumped to the sales order, but there is also related records that you can see here. There was a payment because this invoice was paid in full, but there was a payment on 11/23, and it was for the amount of $46.54. And if I want, I can drill down into that. And so if I go over here, let's take a look at the payment. And let's see what payment method did they use. And so we can record that payment information here. You can also have a credit card integration. If you guys do take credit cards, it will process that right from NetSuite. You don't have to go to out to a third-party gateway. So again, those are the options, and kind of shows how those different records are linked. So if I go back, and let me go back to the recent records, and so here's that sales order, and let's take a look at some of the setup on these items. So kind of show some of the features within the items themselves. So looking at items, you can have a variety of items, whether they're inventory, non-inventory, other charge items, which are items that don't have a specific, they just have a revenue account, so it's something that you charge for. But there's a variety of information that can be stored on the record. So what its name is, particular pricing, and any discount levels that you guys offer. So if you guys have multiple pricing levels, and here are pricing levels that would get assigned to a customer, and then what their associate price would be. Either here's the actual price, or here's the discount that they would get. And again, in whatever currency you defined your organization uses. On the accounting, this one is a inventory item, so it has a cost of goods account as well as an asset, and then income account. So those are all features. And again, you can edit this. If you wanted to create additional items, or this is an older item and it's now superseded by something else, you can create that new item and then reference this one. So there's a variety of ways to kind of track all of that. All right, let me go back and show you a couple more things here in the last couple minutes that I have here with you. If I want to go back and let's say I look at this income statement, within NetSuite, you have the ability, because it is a SaaS-based system, I can not only interact with it in a browser, in a tablet, or on my mobile device through an app, I can also interact with it without having to go, let's say, to Outlook to email somebody. And so let's say that I was running this and I again went back to run it by accounting period, and I was looking at the expenses and said, you know what, this automobile expense just dropped off or went, you know, way above what I thought it was going to be. If I had a question and I wanted to email the, you know, another individual, if you look down here, there's a variety of options you can choose. I can send it to Excel and manipulate it in Excel, and everybody loves Excel, and NetSuite acknowledges that, so they give you an option to send it right there, and then you can manipulate it and run, you know, if you want to create a specific view off of it, you can. I can send it to PDF. I can also choose to email it, and so when I do that, it will email whoever I choose. So if I wanted to send it to a particular person, I can either look at people in our organization, or I can just type people's email addresses outside. And then I can type a message in, say, hey, will you check the expenses? This doesn't look right. And then I click send, and it will send an email from my email. It'll be received to that individual from my email address. So it's not a crazy, you know, NetSuite email address. It is yours, because when I set up my user, it said this particular one. So again, I can email it. And this is, if this is a report that I want to schedule. So if this is something that I've got a board that I meet with, or that I need to send an update to, I can schedule this to run every Friday at the last Friday of the month, or, you know, every 2 weeks. And I can specify the individuals that it goes to, and it can automatically send that out to them. The beauty of that is they don't have to have a NetSuite license to consume it. They can get the email, view the PDF or the, you know, HTML if that's how you want to send it, and again, they'll get information outside of NetSuite. So again, those are all kind of ways to not only consume data, but then to share it within the organization or outside of the organization, and then also to kind of quickly jump around from, you know, one record to another. So a lot of features here, and you know, I didn't get into a lot of the transactional pieces because I feel like, again, those, you know, when I process the sales order, process an order, you know, it is the consuming and the managing of the business, I think, is where, you know, most clients start to transition when they're using NetSuite. And when they start, you know, in that first year, the questions that they're asking of the business is good, but when they get to that second year, they have the ability to ask harder and harder questions that maybe they want to ask now, and they do, but it takes 6 months to get done, or it takes 3 months and you need an answer in 2 days. And so those types of things, with the way that NetSuite is structured, allows you to ask those questions. So.